So between each episode of Hot D so far, we've been given cheeky little time jumps. 6 months here, 2 years there, just jumping all over the place, slowly taking us through the lives of these characters. But apparently, despite that being an insane way to tell your story, it was kind of working for the most part. I found it kind of bizarre and infuriating at times, but then sometimes it worked for me. But this week, it's like, oh no, they were all just little teasers warming you up for the insane 10-year time jump, in which I am just left wondering, what the hell has happened? It appears nothing has happened, but at the same time, there's just a bunch of kids now. So I guess that's good, because those kids are kind of awesome, and all the interactions we get with them are really great. We in fact get even some jokes this episode. Hot D infamously has forgotten one of the best things about Game of Thrones, the humor. It being actually hilarious. It's not all red weddings, it's actually a really funny show as well. Hot D has had none of that. I cannot recall a single joke within the first 10 minutes of this episode. I swear there were like 3 jokes. I laughed out loud like twice. It was crazy. The pig with the wings? Cruel and horrible, but hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Loved all that stuff. All the kid stuff, really good. The change of the actors? Insane and kind of annoying that I had to follow these actors and I'm like invested in their stories. And now just new people. Works better for the Queen because she looks the same and I can't tell that she's a different actress. She just looks the same to me. Rhaenyra, she looks different. She at least looks older. I understand why they did that time jump because I can visually see a difference. Alicent the Queen? It's just the same actress. Or isn't it? I don't know. She looks identical to me. I swear I could make an entire video about just how baffling it is to me that one of them is 18, one is 28, but they both just look kind of 25-ish, and I really can't tell the difference. It definitely doesn't feel like a 10-year time jump to me. It's kind of insane. If you told me the actresses were actually the different ages, I'd be like, sure. I guess they just look the same to me. I don't want to harp on about that because I can't fathom it. I can't get over it. And when I saw the pictures of them, I'm like, but I don't, wait, what are you talking about? And then in the episode, when it cuts to her, I just kept looking, being like, has she changed yet? Has she not changed yet? I can't remember. Do I just not remember what the other one looked like? Do I just not care enough? Or do they just look that similar? I can't get over it, so I'm just going to have to push it to the side. So what has changed over these 10 years? Rhaenyra has a new boy toy, and I know nothing about him, and he's fine, and she looks like she has a type. Curly hair, beard, her bodyguard knight that stands outside the door. She's just done a little switcheroo. It's kind of hilarious. She's clearly got a type. And her husband has a new sexy boy toy. I don't know, he doesn't speak, but I liked that moment where she's like, he can come too, and he's like, yeah, baby. And that guy's like, cool. I like that new actor too. He's been jumped like 5 times over the series, or less, or more. Who knows at this point? But as soon as he appeared, I was like, okay, no, I like this guy. Hopefully we don't jump 10 years further next episode and we just get a new one again, because I like this one. He's a keeper. Please, Hot D, keep them this time, please. So this week we get shocking deaths, burnings, character manipulations. That budget Littlefinger character, he's all like, I'm evil. But the most shocking, horrifying thing was the fact that the king is still alive. How is that man still alive? He's so old, he's so wrinkly, he's so just pale and disgusting and he fell over like 6 times and I swear to God he died last episode. Like he fell at the end of the wedding and it was like a sorrowful, somber moment to end the episode. But no, I guess that was just one of the times he fell over. But he's fine. Fine enough, in fact, to survive 10 years. I don't understand what they're feeding him. What kind of witchcraft, poison, magic juice is he drinking? How is he still alive? He looks and sounds how I feel every Sunday morning. It is insane to me that he is still alive. I honestly couldn't get over it. When he just like walks in and he's just like, oh, the little baby's here. I'm like, what the hell would he mean he's still alive? He's not even bedridden. He's like walking and talking and I don't know. It's just crazy to me. It's like, what happened in these 10 years? Nothing? One of the biggest character changes I found was Sir Criston Cole. And over the 10 years, he soured on the princess because he besmirched his and her honor or something. But last week, 10 years ago, he beat someone to death over a little bit of honor squabbling over who was having sex with which princess or whatever. But this week, 10 years later, the tides have been turned, a bit of a switcheroo, and he is now the one insinuating that somebody else, who looks like a visual carbon copy, just less sexy, and with a bit more hair, but that's because he's kind of cut his hair back. He's like, I'm no longer the flowing sexy hair guy. I've got a bit of a less hair do going on. I don't know what haircuts are called. It's less long hairy. ish. And so this week, he's the one taking a beating. But then at the end of the beating, he's like spitting up blood and laughing and being like, ha ha ha, back in my day, if someone did a punchy squabble, you beat them to death. And, Viper style. But this time, just a little bit of a punching, but still that guy gets banished, and then Budget Littlefinger is like, I guess I kill my brother now. He went from having one of the most forced I'm Littlefinger, Budget Littlefinger moments last week where he's all like, ooh, little whispers and little secrets and blah, 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 to this week just being a psychopath, like an absolute psychopath. He mutes a bunch of men and like criminals, sends them into Harrenhal. How they got into the castle, I don't understand. I guess they just snuck over the walls or something. But if they were like asked to come in, like, who are you, good creepy men in hoods? Why are you coming into Harrenhal? They would be like, because they can't speak. He cut their tongues out. Insanity. But somehow they sneak in, they burn them down. It really seemed like we were going to get a cheeky ambush scene. But no, they somehow get into the castle, burn the character that we just met 5 minutes ago. So this week we get not one, but two underdeveloped characters dying by fire. It's insane. The visual beauty and spectacle and horror of this big old grandpa fat dragon looking at his rider and being like sad and like all like mournful, and he's like, don't make me do this, insert character name. And then she's like, Dracarys, and he's like, okay. Slow mouth open, fire coming out, burns her alive. Damon watches on in horror like, no! Insert character name, how could you do this? I don't understand why you would put in such a powerful, beautiful, horrific moment and give us no setup for it. The character has had 2 lines of dialogue beforehand. I do not understand why you would cut 10 years later, have her being like, I don't want to be in Pentos. And he's like, I do. Then she dies in childbirth and burns herself alive. I don't understand. I was just left baffled. I'm like, I can't believe something so horrific and amazing, just insane, and so Game of Thrones-y is happening. But you didn't give me any reason to care about this character. Like, she had 2 scenes with Damon, and I just kept being like, at least give me like 2 episodes. And 5 minutes before that, or after, who cares, I've already forgotten, the other guy dies of fire. A character where I'm just like, why am I meant to care? Like, we barely got introduced to him. Like, he wasn't bad. Like, neither of the characters were bad or uninteresting. I was just given so little with them. And it's kind of insane. And I think if you look at last episode, 10 years ago, Damon's other wife that died, at least when she was introduced for 5 minutes, I was like, oh, I really like this character. I really like all the things. And it was kind of a heartbreaking, like, oh no, so soon and so quickly. Whereas these other characters, it felt like I was meant to have more investment. Like, it didn't feel like it was meant to be like oh, they were taken too soon from us. It's like, no, I've just missed 10 years of character development. You couldn't at least put a couple more scenes? How are we still focusing so heavily on such few characters, yet I feel like I'm not getting anything or enough from them? Like, the only character this episode that I felt like, oh, I understand him. I understand everything about him, was Aegon. Aegon is a fantastic character, introduced really well. Like, you see him and the little boy is getting his new dragon. That little dragon looks so good. That whole sequence was amazing. But the first thing Aegon does is he just yawns. He doesn't care. He's above this. And then he teases his little brother with a pig with wings, like mocking him. Like the pink dragon that doesn't ride, or whatever he called it. And it's just, I now understand everything I need to know about this character. Next scene, within 3 seconds, I now know so much more about him. And he's just jerking off. I'm pretty sure at the exact same tower Tommen fell off of, or at least it looked very similar. But he's just jerking off into the city. And then the moment when all the kids are training with Aegon and Kristen, and I'm like, okay, I understand these characters really well right now. I just don't understand why they can't apply that same, model of introducing us to a character so strongly for all the other characters. And you could argue, well, they're only going to be in this episode. I would argue that's why you need to make the introduction so much stronger, so much more powerful. Give us scenes with them sitting and talking. Whereas I feel like with these characters, because we've rushed so quickly through it, this was an episode with 2 big, burning, fiery, epic deaths. And I couldn't care less. In fact, I'm just frustrated. Like, it just reminds me of, like, what if season 1 of Game of Thrones started with Ned Stark and he died in the first episode? I just wouldn't care. Give me time to, like, invest in these characters. I don't understand why we're rushing through everything. It feels so rushed. It's like Game of Thrones, if anything, was like a slow burn show where it didn't rush anything. Of course, until the later couple of seasons. But I'm talking about at the start when we were introduced to all the characters we're going to know for the whole show. And I just don't understand why they want to rush through everything. Like, surely there's great little moments of characters and interactions that we could be following. But maybe it isn't about the characters that die. Maybe it's more about just like Damon over 2 episodes, 10 years, he loses his 2 wives. New sexy boy toy for Rhaenyra? Maybe it's not about him. Maybe it's about the fact that Budget Littlefinger, his brother, is a creep and a monster and killed his father and his brother. Okay, so that's what it's about. Okay, that's okay. But also, Budget Littlefinger has had 2 scenes. So, I don't know, I also don't care about him, and he just feels so over the top. But even Littlefinger, even though he's super over the top as like this giant characterization of a character, it still took like 5 episodes of like him doing stuff to have that big betrayal moment with Ned. Whereas this, straight away, killing siblings left, right, and center. So this episode starts with one of the most fantastic scenes in the whole show. I feel like the first 20 minutes of this episode was really strong. And that moment of Rhaenyra, she's just had her baby and she's walking up the stairs because the queen needs to see the baby. And there's so much tension and suspense where it's like, okay, why does she need to see the baby? Is she gonna kill this baby straight away? And there was just so much kind of malice and tension and mystery of like, oh, what has happened between these 10 years to get to this point where she's walking up these stairs, she's got to give this baby to the queen straight away. What kind of horrors or, monstrosity has the queen become? The tension does subside quite quickly when we are introduced to new queen, who looks the same as old queen. I won't get into it. So with all the tension of walking up the stairs, we meet Alicent 2.0, and she's kind of just very catty. Maybe the next one will look like you. And it's like, oh, okay, no, what has happened over the 10 years? Nothing. They both still just kind of hate each other, and there's a little bit of tension, but I thought not knowing what had happened in those 10 years made that walk up the steps so much more horrifying. But then, as the rest of this episode played out, if it wasn't including Aegon and the kids, who I actually found really enjoyable and entertaining, and their dynamics and everything, apart from that, and kind of Sir Kristen Cole, I kind of enjoyed how kind of changed and darker he is now. The time jump really felt like it was just kind of like, I don't understand why we've cut so far in the future, and now we were rushing through so many character arcs that these 2 new characters introduced this episode are already dead, and I don't care, and I don't know why you think I would care. It just baffles me. We are moving so quickly through this show. I just feel like the show needs to take a deep breath. I know I have harped on about the time jump and all that kind of stuff way too much, but it feels something that I can't avoid talking about with every single character. Like Sir Kristen Cole, his character has changed dramatically, but if it had skipped 2 months ahead from last episode, I would have still bought that this character was like this. He loved the princess, but then, he did the punchy punch mountain viper moment, and then he's all like, ooh, now I'm angry and bitter towards her, and it's turned and soured day by day, or 10 year by 10 year, and now he's siding with her enemy, her old friend, the queen. Cool, that could have happened over 2 months, a year, 10 years. Over 10 years, he could have gone back and forth, but we have no idea. We'd have to presume, okay, did that slowly happen? Has he become this monster in the last year? Or 9 years ago? I don't know. It just feels so big. I don't understand it. Imagine being Matt Smith and over 10 years, you didn't age a day and you still look beautiful and handsome, but he should have kept his hair short. I don't think the long hair works for him. When he got that short hair a couple episodes ago, I was like, whoa, that Targaryen silver hair look is actually really working for Matt Smith. Now with the long hair, I hope we jump another 2 months at least so the hair can be cut and changed so that we know time has passed. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment below. I would love to know what everyone thought of episode 6 of Hot D.